Step into a world of romance and mystery with Tamora Rose, where candlelight flickers against stone walls, secrets are whispered in shadowed corridors, and love is never quite simple. Today we're talking about something that seems small on the surface, but it has a surprising amount of power over how readers experience historical romance. It's called the Tiffany problem, that uneasy moment when something is historically accurate yet emotionally feels just completely wrong. If you've ever been pulled out of a story by a detail you couldn't quite explain, something that made you pause, squint, and think, that doesn't belong there, then you already understand the heart of the issue. The Tiffany problem isn't really about names, it's about trust. It's about the invisible contract between writer and reader, and how fragile that contract can be when perception clashes with fact. Let's start with the infamous example itself. The name Tiffany just feels modern. It carries echoes of shopping malls and pop songs and polished glass counters and very specific decades of cultural memory. For many readers, it simply does not belong in a medieval hall filled with rushes and torch smoke. And yet, historically speaking, it absolutely does fit in that setting. The name Tiffany traces back centuries, rooted in religious tradition and used long before corsets became romantic shorthand for an era. So why does it feel wrong then? Because fiction doesn't operate on facts alone. Fiction lives in the emotional and associative space of the reader's mind. When a reader encounters a name or an object or even a way of speaking, they don't process it like a historian. They process it like a human being shaped by culture, memory, and expectation. This is where historical romance becomes kind of a delicate balancing act. On one side, there is accuracy, the deep research, the footnotes, the satisfying knowledge that, yes, this detail truly existed. On the other side, there's immersion, the feeling of being swept away, of believing in the world without resistance. And sometimes accuracy threatens immersion instead of supporting it. Romance readers, especially those drawn to historical and paranormal stories, are not looking for a textbook. They don't care about most of the historical details in your book. They're looking for atmosphere, for the feeling they're going to get out of your book. They want candlelight and yearning glances, the weight of unspoken rules, the ache of forbidden love. They want to feel the constraints of the era pressing in on the characters' hearts, even if those constraints are subtly softened for modern sensibilities. This is why reader perception matters so deeply. A perfectly accurate detail that jolts a reader out of the story has failed its purpose, not because it's wrong, but because it breaks emotional continuity. When that happens, the spell is just broken, and romance, more than almost any other genre, relies on that spell remaining intact. Historical romance writers walk a tightrope every time they sit down to write. Language is one strand. Dialogue that is too modern risks shattering the illusion entirely. But dialogue that is too archaic risks alienating the reader. Social norms are another strand. A story that strictly adheres to historical attitudes about gender, consent, or power might be accurate, but it might also be unbearable to read or impossible to root for, and it might just be vastly disappointing. This is where creative license steps in, not as a betrayal of history, but as an act of translation. You are not recreating the past in perfect detail. That's not the point. You are interpreting it for a modern audience. You are choosing which truths matter most for the story you are telling. Consider hygiene, for example. Historically accurate? Well, that would be often unpleasant, at least according to modern standards. Is it necessary for the story? Not really. Your readers probably don't want that part included. Most readers are happy to accept a version of the past that smells better than reality did, because what they are there for is the emotional closeness, not historical discomfort. Or consider morality. A brooding duke who respects boundaries, listens, and grows emotionally is probably not the perfect reflection of his era, but he is a perfect vessel for a romance arc that modern readers can invest in. And investment is everything. Without it, passion rings hollow and longing just feels forced. This doesn't mean accuracy has no place. On the contrary, accuracy gives weight to the world. It grounds the magic, whether that magic is literal or emotional. The goal is not to abandon research, but to use it intentionally. Ask yourself what each detail is doing for the story. Is it deepening the atmosphere, clarifying stakes, strengthening a character, or is it simply there to prove that you did your homework? The answer matters. When accuracy serves the story, it disappears into the narrative. When it doesn't, it becomes a distraction. The Tiffany problem exists because readers are not reacting to history. They're reacting to their own relationship with history. They are responding to what feels plausible within the shared myth of the past we all carry. And that shared myth is really quite powerful. It's built from novels, films, television, and collective imagination as much as it is from fact. When you write historical romance, you are writing into that myth. You are shaping it, bending it, and sometimes gently correcting it, but always in service to the emotion of the story. This is especially true in stories that blend history with the paranormal or the supernatural. When magic enters the picture, emotional truth becomes even more important than literal accuracy. Readers will gladly accept witches and time slips or ancient curses, but they still need to feel like the world is cohesive. Anything that jars them out of that cohesion becomes more noticeable, not less. So, what do you do if you love a detail that feels historically right, but emotionally wrong? You pause. Consider your audience for a while. You decide whether that detail enhances longing or interrupts it. Sometimes the answer will be to keep it. Sometimes the answer will be to change it. Neither choice makes you less of a writer, it just makes you an intentional one. There is a quiet confidence in knowing why something feels wrong, even when it isn't. That awareness gives you control. It allows you to make intentional choices instead of defensive ones. You are no longer arguing with the reader, you're guiding them on their journey. Historical romance is not about recreating a year on the calendar. It's about recreating a feeling. The sense of distance, the weight of rules, the danger of desire. The sweetness of stolen moments, maybe. Those are the truths readers come for, and those are the truths worth protecting. So if you ever find yourself hesitating over a name or a phrase or a custom, ask yourself this. Does it deepen the romance, or does it pull focus from it? Because at the end of the day, accuracy is a tool. Emotion is the goal. Always pursue that goal. That's it for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever been pulled out of a story by a detail that technically shouldn't have bothered you? Let me know in the comments. Until we meet again, may your days be filled with passion and just a touch of magic.